So I mentioned our speaker for today is Kimberly Patterson from Coriki. Kimberly has worked in the field of educational technology for more than a decade. She's managed product development at education startups and traditional publishers and created and edited content for online and print products. As managing editor for Coriki, she maintains the website's editorial features and works closely with partners and members to provide training and support. So now over to you, Kimberly.
So, good afternoon, good morning for anybody for whom it's still morning. And we're going to start. I have a short PowerPoint for us to look at. So today's topic, we're going to talk about digital lesson plans. And just a brief overview, we're going to start talking about kind of the traditional approach versus open educational resources. And this is really Coriki's focus, and this is something that is becoming more and more of a presence with online lesson plans and internet resources. We're going to talk about some of the benefits and challenges, and then we're going to look at how you can find lesson plans on Coriki and what other sources you can use. So, some of the challenges of the traditional approach, high cost of today's instructional materials. The traditional approach tends to be materials that come from major publishers or other companies that are publishing supplemental resources or professional resources for teachers. Most of these are fairly expensive, and it can often be a challenge with school budgets, especially in areas that are struggling. Quality instruction is not easily disseminated. A lot of times teachers will make photocopies for other teachers and can share, quietly in that regard, but the official way of sharing materials is for everybody to have their own copy. For software or digital versions, there's usually licensing involved where you have to share a number of licenses and then someone else needs to buy their own version. And then the sharing of ideas is not easily facilitated. So, you have a hard copy or you have a source that's on your computer, and say you want to add your own lesson to it, or you have your own method for teaching that particular activity. How do you share that with other people? How can you give that to benefit the entire education community? So these are just some of the challenges. I'm sure there are many, many others. And it's something that, with people going online to find resources, they're looking for solutions to some of these challenges. So with the internet, we now have opportunities for innovation. With online resources and digital lesson plans, the information can be accessed from anywhere in the world. Even if it's a proprietary database that you're using or software applications that you're purchasing through a publisher, generally you can log on from any computer and access that database. The notion of Web 2.0 is that it's participatory. The first iteration of the internet brought us email, brought us web browsers, and that was pretty amazing. And now we're starting to see a shift towards whether it's blogging or social networking or Twitter, different ways to communicate and for people to collaborate and share information. And it really allows you to leverage the knowledge of the entire community. This is something that's especially of interest to Coriki, is the ability for people to collaborate on resources. So it's not just one source of information, it's people coming together to share and collaborate, grow and improve. And then along with this Web 2.0, we've had the notion of open source. And open source really started in the software world, where you would have people publishing strings of code for their website or their application. They'd say, yes, this is free for anybody to use this. You can make this better. You can make this into something completely different. But it was supposed to be a collaborative, iterative response. And we've really been able to develop some fantastic pieces of technology through this process. In fact, the PowerPoint that we're viewing right now was created in OpenOffice, which is an open source version of the Microsoft Office tools, and it's completely free, and it has great functionality, and it's available for any platform. So this is something that we're hoping to do more with Curriki and really with this push into open education resources in the future. Because of this new cycle with Web 2.0 content and open source resources, it's a more iterative response. Someone is able to create a lesson plan. They can publish it on the internet, and then the community is available to revise this. They can comment on it. They can share their own information or share their own feedback. They can make a revision. They can remix it into something entirely new. And then that work can be published. So suddenly where you had only one lesson plan, now you've got 2, or now you've got 5. Someone can take something that is appropriate for their older students and work that into a resource that's appropriate for their younger but gifted students. Or vice versa, something that they need for struggling older students, they can take and adapt an existing resource and put that out there for students who need extra help. So from that single source, you're able to have derivative works, expanded ideas that are then published and shared. So what does this mean for education? With Curriki and with lots of other sites, which we'll talk about, and I'll show you how to access those, the idea is that this content is made available for free. Now, it's of course not always the case, and there are some really high-quality resources out there that you do have to pay for, you do have to subscribe to, and they're great. But really, we support the idea that education should be available to everybody, and that we want to collapse this education divide, meaning that, just because schools have lots of money doesn't mean that they should have all of the resources when schools that don't have enough money are suffering. We want people to be able to create and improve content, not just consume it. So people are able to share their own expertise. Teachers who have been in the classroom for 20 years have a wealth of experience and knowledge, and we want to be able to share that and build on that. The content can be collaboratively developed, and this community can be both local and global. And that's one interesting thing we can look at on Curriki, the idea that people, whether they're working in the same school building, same school district, or across the world, can work together to create resources. We hope that it makes teachers more engaged, being able to, that engaged teachers are really able to get behind what they're teaching instead of just something that's been handed to them from a publisher. And then also this content can be updated regularly to stay current. That's always been a challenge in the traditional publishing world. When you have a textbook come out, the publishing cycle is so long, it takes such a long time to get to press and then distributed that information can change so quickly. So that's been a great feature of the internet in general, is the ability to stay current, and it definitely has positive ramifications for education. So this concept of open educational resources, again, digital lesson plans, classroom activities, professional development materials, really OER can be anything. Today we're talking mostly about lesson plans. But the idea is that this is going to invert the existing publishing model. So there's no need to buy a single textbook or a single activity.